Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Happy Monday. Hope all is well with you. We had a good Easter. Let's hit right into it. The nightmare continues in Ukraine, not getting any better. In fact, potentially getting much, much worse. Saw some of the images over the weekend that were horrific, and they were horrific. Zelensky. I don't know if you guys saw this image of him reacting to a video of a mom finding her son dead in a well.
I'm sure you have seen the video of the Ukrainian mom finding her son in a well. What is it like for you as the president of this country to see those videos?
This is the most horrifying thing I have seen in my life. I look at this, first of all, as a father. It hurts so much. I can't watch it as a father, only because all you want after this is revenge and to kill.
Yeah, that's it. You look at something like that. She is seeing her child she raised dead in a well. How would you feel? You've been invaded for what? Some BS? I mean, last week, remember when their ship sunk? This is my favorite. Of all the reasons. So the ship sunk, right? The one of their prides of their fleet. First it was a fire, and then it didn't sink. And then, yes, it did sink, but it wasn't because of the Ukrainians. But we are going to get revenge on the Ukrainians for not sinking our boat, because we sunk it ourselves. This is a nightmare. And the Russians have invaded because, well, they're denazifying. But now it's not denazifying. Now it is simply, let's do all we can to get Mariupol, right? Because we don't care about what's going on there. And what did we talk about in the last couple of weeks? That this thing is about to get much uglier than people realize. This thing's about to get much uglier than what we have seen. And eventually, manpower and, yes, weaponry is going to overrun Ukraine. That is what's going to happen at some point in time. Now, holding it forever, they're never going to be able to do. But it doesn't mean they can't take it. And that seems to be the thing that they're doing. And Mariupol is continuing to push. They are not giving up. They're going to fight till the end.
You know, the Russians have demanded surrender in Mariupol by early this morning. That deadline has now passed. Has the city fallen?
No, city still is not fallen. There is still our military forces, our soldiers, so they will fight till the end. There is civilians suffering for more than 40 days, and they have no water, no food, no heat, no electricity. Some of the regions of Mariupol is under Ukrainian control, so there is no whole control from Russians.
Yeah. And that's what they want. They want that. That gives them land bridge. That's their whole thing. I mean, a lot of people thought that's originally what they were coming in to do, the baloney about denazification. I think they thought this thing was going to be easy. It wasn't easy. I think they thought nobody would stand up and look the Russians in the eyes and tell them to piss off, which, for all intents and purposes, a majority of the world has done. And in doing so, they've pissed off the Russians. Oh, they're so angry. I mean, look, looks like Sweden and Finland are really close to joining NATO this summer. They've already threatened them. They want no part of them in an actual battle, nuclear-wise. But are you going to do that? Are you going to really drop nuclear weapons on your doorstep? Are you really going to do that? Earlier today, some flyovers of some of their nuclear planes. That's right. Is this the opportunity to see potentially something like a tactical nuke used?
The White House is worried Putin could order the use of a tactical or a low-yield nuclear weapon in order to extract the victory. How worried should we all be about this?
We need to be prepared for this eventuality, and this has to inform what we do. But if Putin were willing to do that, of course, he would do the same tactics in the Baltic states, our NATO allies. So I think that the best policy is to not be intimidated by Putin.
I think that's what we have to do. I mean, we have tried to. I don't know what we're trying to do. The lack of leadership is very real, especially since last summer and what happened in Afghanistan. The flailingness of this administration is ever present, and it is not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, well, I think the bigger problem for Biden is people correctly perceive that he's not in control of the situation. And I think ever since Afghanistan last summer, voters overall have not had a sense of leadership from the White House, have not had a sense that there's a president in control who is strong and consistent and knows what he's doing and can project a consistent message from one day or the next, even when they agree with what he's doing, like broadly on Ukraine. You know, it's not any particular policy or particular decision that he's made so much as people just questioning whether there is strong leadership.
Yeah, I think that's very real. If you don't think that the people next to you are run in the right way, they're ripe for the pickings. And I think if there were other people in there that people looked at and thought, these people have it together, you think twice about things. Putin is going to push for as long as he can. And because of that, we're in a situation that we know is going to get far uglier and far nastier in the coming days, weeks, and potentially months. And the world is on notice. It's time that we put him on notice that, yeah, we too have the things that you say you have, but we know our stuff works. So if you want to go down a road of mutual destruction, you can do that if you choose. But know that it's not going to be a one-way situation where you get to come one way and all of us bow down. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. A lot of stuff to get to. Talk about Title 42. You guys remember that? It's getting ready to go away.
And if you look across the country, as I said, infections are still at a relatively historic low. Hospitalizations are very low. And the CDC scientists determined that Title 42 is not necessary at the border. And by the way, that goes into effect in late May. It gives us time to assess things, and that's a public health decision made by the CDC. And I think that they're following the evidence as they see it.
Now, all fairness, I think it should go away. But because we have a situation where nobody is doing anything when it comes to Title 42, and then what comes after, the administration's kind of hemming and hawing, not really doing anything about it, not really saying, hey, we're looking at this and we may have to institute it, kick it down the road for another 4 or 6 weeks. They're just kind of ignoring the whole thing. All that being said, everybody's coming across the border. Remember, last year, Title 42 was in effect. We still have 1.7, 1.8, 1.9 million people come across the border. Some ungodly amount. Nothing is getting done at the border. So Title 42, even Democrats, Mark Kelly, in a precarious situation here in Arizona, probably the seat that everybody's looking at as the most vulnerable, potentially, here in the country when it comes to the Senate. He's a Democrat. He's like, you can't get rid of Title 42. Kyrsten Sinema's been a thorn in the side, also a Democrat here in Arizona. Guess what? Can't get rid of Title 42. Why? Because there's nothing behind it. There's nothing behind this. This is the thing that is at least slowing things down. And already we're seeing masses of people heading to the border knowing full well that this thing is going to end. And once it's done, that's it. That is it. Because with zero plan behind it, it is going to be a free-for-all.
The president has not ever come to the border of Texas and has seen the chaos that he has caused. And if he's not going to come to the border, we're going to take the border to him. There is another bus in transit as we speak right now, and we will continue to send buses to Washington, D.C.
Now, while it sounds interesting, we also remember that that is a volunteer basis. So you have to volunteer to go to D.C. So you come across, right? They go through all the paperwork. You apply for your asylum, whatever it is that's going on. They give you your phone, which is, again, another one of those situations. You're like, they give you a phone? They give you a phone and supposedly to track you because they're not doing the ankle monitors anymore. And you could just throw the phone away. Nothing's going to happen to you. You know that. And then if you're going to D.C., you might as well say, yeah, I'll take a free ride to D.C. If you're going to Virginia, if you're going to the East Coast, it'd be easier. Maybe you just want to, hey, they're offering free trips to D.C. I'd like to see the White House before we get settled in here. But it's not like he could just take them the minute they arrive and just put them on a bus and send them off. That's not the way that happens. But he's right. He's never been there. And it's hilarious to think that they're going to be showing up in D.C. That would be the hilarious part. You can't do that, but it would be. Send them all to, like, you know, Feinstein's house. Well, not Feinstein. She's having some troubles right now. We'll talk about that a little later. Maybe, you know, Nancy's house. Beto, you're very excited about people.
No, I think it's time to end Title 42. Okay. I don't think we should have ever implemented it. It's a very cynical reading of U.S. law.
Yeah, okay. It's CDC, though, so you run with that one, kids. Very cynical reading of U.S. law, the way it is. Okay. Send him to his house. And he's in Texas. Simple. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You go, what are you guys doing here? Oh, they said to come to your house. They said you'd had food, blankets, a nice comfy place for us to have a soft landing while we get our bearings so we could start looking for jobs. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. It's your Twitter. Hope you had a good Easter. Had a very nice Easter with the kids and the family. Very relaxing. Thanks, Craig, filling in on me Friday. Enjoyed some time off. Let's talk a little bit about Eden Pure. Smelling good in the neighborhood. I like to smell good. I like the places I work to smell good. Like the places I live to smell good. Sometimes stuff happens. Things aren't so smell goody, if you will. That's where Eden Pure comes in. Right now, I've got Eden Pures all around my new office space. People that left, they left it in not the best way. And so some of it stank. There was old food and stuff there. Guess what? You would never, ever know that because of Eden Pure. Simple and easy. I plug it right into walls. No air filters to buy. The OxyLeaf Thunderstorm 2 is quiet as can be. And away it goes. Within minutes, boom, everything. And I do mean everything is gone. Any of the odors, dead. Gone. Gone. Over 150,000 sold already. Right now, I want you to save big. The Eden Pure OxyLeaf 2 Thunderstorm. You get 3 units. You're going to save $200. Do it right now by using code CHAD3. And again, no filters to buy. Save $200. Go to EdenPureDeals.com. Put in discount code CHAD3. That's EdenPureDeals.com. Discount code CHAT3 saves you $200. Shipping is free. EdenPureDeals.com. Discount code CHAT3. Chad Benson Show.
You stink like fear and white male privilege to me.
I do often out myself verbally as a gender. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm proud to be agender.
Are you stupid? What? Are you kidding me? Not a great way to use your white privilege.
Some people get it, some people don't.
You're listening to The Chad Benson Show.
Philadelphia preparing to become the first major U.S. city to reinstate its indoor mask mandate since most restrictions were lifted last month. Angry business owners and residents filing a lawsuit Saturday to block it before it goes into effect Monday. Philadelphia health officials reporting a 50% increase in new COVID-19 cases in just 10 days. 31 states and territories across the country are seeing a similar upward trend, but hospitalizations so far remaining low.
Only thing you should care about is hospitalizations. At the end of the day, that's it. If you care, hospitalizations matter because if you're sick, but you're not going to die from it, who cares? Well, I care. Well, I know that, but do you know what I mean? Like you shouldn't close down everything again or ask people to wear masks. It's the insanity of this COVID that's, it's not going anywhere. It's still here. It's never leaving. Of course it's never leaving. Still here, right? But look at the UK. Do you remember, the UK is they've got this new variant, and this thing is incredible, and it's got this, and there's, oh my God, it's a new variant. New variant came in, and it did a little bit of nothing, right? They had an uptick for a few days, but within, by early, literally from March 28th to where they are now, this thing has come down tremendously. You never heard them freak out? But now you've got people, oh my God, better go back indoors. Everybody better hide. These things are happening. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. That's it. Let it go. Let people figure out what they need to do. And we'll go from there. It is that simple. Here's the thing, when you knee-jerk reaction to something like this, already, it's funny, I read an article today, it's all, COVID's not over, but people are over with it. No, people are over with the stuff. They're over with the masking. They're over with the fact that, there's an uptick, and oh my God, we're going to run back in, and all of a sudden, bing, bang, boom, on goes mask, and then here come restrictions. That's what people are done with. Those polls, you go look at the polls over and over again. It's not COVID itself that people are worried about. It's the reaction of politics and politicians because of COVID. And I'm sorry, if you're going to be masking people again, this is the first big city, Philly, pretty big city. Who could be coming next? And then we're talking about taking away Title 42. Oh, my God, how could you? And you still have to wear a damn mask on an airplane, which is why I'm not flying anywhere. Because there's no chance in hell I'm wearing a mask for 5 or 6 hours. I'm sorry, I'm just not doing it. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Remember, it's tax day today. Touch on that later. Wokeness is real. Elon Musk is freaking people out, which makes me laugh. I saw where Mark Cuban's like, I think he's just trolling. And I'm like, it's possible. It's a very Elon thing to do. But joining us in a minute, Dave Rubin. He's podcaster, right? His political commentary. He's got a new book out called Don't Burn This Country, Surviving and Thriving in Our Woke Dystopia. And it is wokeness. He's going to join us. And it's interesting. I got some new questions about Elon because when we started reading the book, Elon had just thrown kind of in his hat in the ring, and now he's gone full hog. And we'll talk about that and so much more straight ahead. Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Wokeness sucks. We talk about it all the time. Next guest, I've had him on the show a few times. He's got the Rubin Report, and he's a former stand-up comic, still does a little stuff, but author of a great book called Don't Burn This Country, Surviving and Thriving in Our Woke Dystopia. Dave Rubin joins the program. And Dave, the first thing when I got through most of this book, I loved was the Cato Institute, where it says nearly 2/3 of Americans said the current political climate prevents them from saying things they believe because others might find them offensive. That is insane, but that's the wokeness of the world, fear of being canceled.
Chad, first off, I realize, having heard you say it now, I think wokeness sucks could have been the title of my book, or that should be the title of your next book. That's it right there. Yes, the idea of fear. I mean, we live in the freest country in the history of the world. I know that idea right there is scary to a lot of people, but it really is true. Everyone that's living in America right now has it better than their ancestors, almost with no exceptions to that, whether it's your great-grandparents that came here, your grandparents, whether you're a second-generation immigrant. Everyone's made it better. We live in this extraordinary freedom, and yet most of us, and the studies prove this, not only the Cato study, there's many others, we walk around not saying what we think, not posting what we think on Facebook, not actually telling our friends what we believe. And the more that we do that, we actually feed the monster that is coming for our rights. I think a lot of people think, oh, if I just kind of don't say what I think right now, I won't get canceled, or the mob won't come for me, or eventually this thing will pass. But actually, that is the very food that this monster is sustained on. The idea that because of an image that is scary, it can get you to act as if it was scary. And I've noticed that many of the people that I'm associated with, that I have on my show, and from my own life, the more you stand up and say what you believe, yes, you will take slings. They will say mean things about you. Anonymous accounts on Twitter are going to lie about you and a series of other things. But you will be refined, you will be strengthened, and you will start fighting for a world that you want to live in. That really is the premise of the whole book.
You know, it's interesting because people are afraid to get fired. Joe Rogan, he's got FU money, right? Like, he's living in a different world. The Chappelles of the world. There are certain things where it's like they have built up a world where they can live and thrive because the people that love them aren't going to cancel them. The average person, right, who works down the street at the little tax place or is an accountant somewhere, or they're the ones who are feeling wokeness running them over because they don't have that following. They can be fired from the Home Depots of the world with very little repercussions.
Sure. So that's a great point, and it's not to be dismissed. And I can also tell you that, I know Joe and I know a bunch of other people with FU money. The funny thing about FU money is a lot of people think, oh, one day I'll get FU money and then I'll just start saying what I think. And I've found, with a few exceptions, that actually usually is not the case. Even the FU money people start thinking, oh, I have more to lose now. So it becomes this very bizarre self-hostage situation in a way. But to your point about just the average decent human being who wants to go about living their life and think freely and speak freely and associate with who they want, et cetera, I think the same premise still sits there, that you have no choice. Because look, let's say you work at Home Depot, the example you use, or you're an accountant at a firm, and they're forcing you to do a diversity, equity, and inclusion program, and they want to tell you that straight white men are bad, or that, whatever the thing of the day is. If you do not stand up and say something, you're actually signing your own death warrant, because over time, if those ideas continue at a place like Home Depot, and Home Depot is actually pretty good about it. The owner of Home Depot is pretty solid. So I don't want to make it about them specifically. But if you are to work at a place that has these ideas, well, eventually you'll get passed over for promotions, and it will be your own acquiescence that will have led to it. And yes, I get nobody wants to be fired, and we all have to think about what we want to do seriously. If you've only got 2 weeks' salary in the bank and you've got to take care of a family, maybe this isn't the best time to completely be out there. But you know what? You can expose what your company's doing. There's all sorts of nonprofits and law firms that are now exposing a lot of the what's going on in these companies, the discrimination they've brought in. So you just have to think a little bit creatively on how you want to fight it. I'm not saying you just go out blazing, guns blazing without thinking through what your life is. But the silence part right now is the scariest part for most people, because we're giving power to people that don't deserve that power.
No doubt. Don't burn this country, surviving and thriving in a woke utopia, dystopia. Joining us, Dave Rubin, the author of the book. One of the other things I was reading about was Patreon. And I always find this interesting. You hear people say, and we'll talk about Musk here in a minute, because I do find this to be very interesting with him. But if you don't like it, go start your own. Right. So when people have gone to try to start their own, whether it be, whether it's Patreon, you've had conservatives go there and, oh, my God, they're being thrown off. And all of a sudden, YouTube, you're kicked off of YouTube. And it can be a snap thing like that, where you're kicked off of something, even though you're thinking to yourself, I got no warning for this. It feels like it's a snap judgment. And I was reading about what you were saying is you were making the most of your money was coming from Patreon. And you're like, yeah, no, I got to get out of this, because at any moment I could be next. Yeah.
Long story short, they had Patreon, which is a crowdfunding platform. So whatever it is that you're doing as a creator, whether you do political videos like me, or you do unboxing videos, or you make ceramics, whatever it is, if you have a few people that want to subscribe to you monthly, that's in essence what Patreon is. I was making about 80% of my company's revenue. Now, that's not just money for me. I have several employees. I have a production company. And one day they just canceled a guy by the name of Carl Benjamin. He had without getting too lost in the details, he had said the N-word, not to be racist. He had said it not on his Patreon nor on his YouTube channel that was funding Patreon. He had said it on someone else's show to mock the people who use words like that. He was mocking the actual racist. But they decided to completely cancel his account for doing that with no recourse. And I thought that's a bridge too far. And what did I do? I actually started my own subscription network. It took a little time to put together. It took blood, sweat, and tears and a bunch of money. But then from that, I started my own tech company called Locals, which is a much better version of Patreon, which lets you, the user and the creator, own all of your stuff. And I'm very proud to say that in the 3 years of doing that, and some of this happened after I wrote the book, so it's not even in the book, but eventually we merged with Rumble, which is really YouTube's main competitor right now. So the Build It thing is happening right now, and that probably gets us to the Elon Musk discussion, because there are people out there that are fighting for a freer internet, and you just got to find them.
The free, I don't get, I lean more right than left, but, for me, it's like marriage equality. Absolutely. Why? Who am I to tell anybody? First of all, government needs to get out of marriage, period, case closed. I'm a person who looks around and who you are and how you identify. You go fly whatever flag that you think is right for you. And as long as you're kind to people and we're getting on with our lives. I look around, though. It's like, you can't have questions on some of these things, whether it's Facebook or Twitter. What is the progressive world terrified of if somebody's like, well, that's disinformation? Well, if you believe that meme to be true and you don't do any homework, that's a you problem. It's not a me problem.
Well, the irony is it's not that they're against disinformation. They're against things that go against their narrative. I mean, look, if they were against disinformation, there is an elderly gentleman pretending to be president known as Joe Biden, and you may remember him back in June saying that if you got the COVID vaccine, you would not get nor transmit COVID. Now, we know that is completely untrue. It is as untrue now as it was then. Look what's happened over the last couple months. In some cases, there are some studies showing that people that get the vaccine are more likely to get COVID. I mean, there's all sorts of cross-information out there. This is what science is about, constantly finding new information and discoveries and looking at studies and trying to aggregate those things to make some sense of the world. So what it seems right now is that the left seems to be very concerned that they will lose the narrative. And where do they get most of the narrative? Where is the narrative sort of put together like a transformer? It's put together on Twitter. So when Elon Musk comes in and he says, hey, I just want to respect free speech. I mean, that is all this guy has said. He said, I want to respect free speech and I want to give significantly more money per share to buy this company. The fascinating thing about Twitter is that it is worth basically right now pretty much the same amount as when it went public in 2013. That's not what any public company wants. Obviously, you want to go up like a hockey stick. He's coming in and saying, hey, I want to fix this thing. It is the dream. I can tell you this, Chad. It is the dream of anyone who has ever created a company, especially a tech company, to get a call from Elon Musk and say, can I buy your company? That is, if you said to any tech founder ever, what is the ultimate dream? What is the direction your company could go in that would put rocket fuel on it? No pun intended with Elon Musk. That is the dream. And the fact that the board is saying no to an incredible offer. I mean, if you are a shareholder of Twitter right now, just the average guy who put a couple of bucks in Twitter 10 years ago, you should be pretty freaking pissed. And you should probably be on the phone with your lawyer.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I find it to be fascinating that he's offering far more than it's probably worth. I don't even know. He thinks he can monetize it and turn it into something. The guy's worth billions of dollars, but he's not an idiot. He looks at something and says, there's things that we can do with this. I just don't, the fact that they're fine taking monies from MBS and the Saudis, who the last time I checked, Dave, I think they killed a guy and then embalmed him while they were chopping him to bits and pieces, who worked for the Washington Post, and you're fine with him protecting your free speech.
Chad, this is the hilarious irony of these people, and that's why if you're always for narrative more than truth, which is what they are, you're always going to find these crazy inconsistencies. So it's like they're completely against Elon Musk, but they're okay with the Saudi investment. And it's also like, well, where are you guys on Jeff Bezos? Now, I don't have a problem with Jeff Bezos making an awful lot of money. I use Amazon. I try to go to mom and pop shops as much as possible, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't use Amazon. But the guy also owns Washington Post, which is completely a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party. It is pure leftist propaganda. So are they upset about that? Or that one goes to their narrative, so they're okay. Elon Musk, he's a little more libertarian. He's a little more okay with freedom. So we got a big problem here. That's the ironic situation that they put themselves in.
Don't burn this country, surviving and thriving in our woke dystopia. Dave Rubin's joining us. Last question. Appreciate you coming on today, Dave. where's this going? Because I think we're at a point now, and I think Leah Thomas really helped us push that point over, and
Yes.
chaos with Disney. That okay, guys, look, it's okay to be welcoming, and we absolutely should. We should treat each other kindly. We can maybe look over and go, I disagree with you, but I respect you. But then you got to a point where you've got a guy who's absolutely crushing women in the pool, and Disney is trying to figure out how they can make every single person and critter and thing gay in their, in their shows. This is enough. I think people are stepping back and saying, "All right, we've had enough."
I think that is the moment that we're at. And I said last week when Elon made this offer that we are officially entering a post-woke world. And that is what this book is about. That, look, these guys have destroyed a lot. They have wrecked a lot of the country. They've wrecked, so many of the things that we once knew obviously to be true that we could all agree on 5 years ago. There's differences between boys and girls. 2 + 2 is 4. Being non-racist is a good thing. They now have flipped all of those things on their head. So the whole purpose of the book is, what can you do right now to disconnect from these people and be part of the post-woke world, be part of the new world? There are not only ways to build new things and not be so reliant on big tech, but I give other examples. Don't get $100,000 into college debt to get a degree in lesbian archery. That's probably not going to help you. There are a lot of ways you can take the power back to yourself and think about a new world, because I can tell you, as a guy that spent the last 8 years living in Los Angeles, who now lives in the free state of Florida, it's being built right now. So you can either choose to be part of it, or you can just continue the slow descent into hell that they're dragging you into. But I suspect there is no bottom to that pit, and you'll be down there with them for a long time.
Great book, easy read. Don't Burn This Country, Surviving and Thriving in Our Woke Dystopia. Dave Rubin, thanks so much for joining the show, man. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Chad, always enjoy talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks, brother. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter, ChadBenson. So right. We are in this bizarre world right now, and I don't know when it's going to get better, but I think we're at that tipping point where we've gone past that line that pilots go where you can no longer turn back, and now the wokeness is being called out for what it is, even by people who are somewhat woke themselves. RUFFgreens.com/Chad, roughgreens.com/Chad. Go there, get a free bag of Rough Greens, vitamins, minerals, probiotics, omega-3, 6, 9, all these incredible things, supplements, goes right on top of your dog's food, brings your dog's food to life. Been giving it to my dog Doodle for going on 3 years now. He's healthier and happier than he's ever been. Never thought he'd live this long. When we got him, we thought he was way younger. We found out, he's way older, but he's still alive, and he's still kicking, and he's still bouncy and happy, and I love that. Your dog can be that too. Why don't you try it before you buy it? That's what Rough Greens is doing. You're going to go to roughgreens.com/Chad, RUFFgreens.com/Chad. They're going to give you a free bag, just for trying it. You cover the cost of shipping. You can also call them direct, 833-MY-DOG-77, 833-MY-DOG-77. Rough Greens makes any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
I usually don't get into politics. As an ordinary suburban housewife, I feel a little disrespected. I teach my children not to name call.
You are a blabbermouth!
Come on, man. Guys, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum?
Chad Benson.
Off to save the world, are we?
Good news and bad for Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. The third film in the Harry Potter spin-off series opened in first with $43 million domestically. That's good. But it's also the lowest debut gross in the franchise's history, which is seeing steadily declining returns.
I'm going to be a priest.
For Halloween.
The weekend's other major release, Mark Wahlberg's Father Stu, a flop. Only $5 million for a fifth-place opening.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people knew about it. It is a smaller opening. Didn't get a lot of press. Father Stu, based on a true story about a guy who's like his party animals, crazy dude, decides to become a priest, becomes an inspiration. He gets this disease, but it's a very interesting story. And, of course, Mark Wahlberg's leaving Los Angeles. That's Matthew McConaughey. They're all leaving. We're just talking to Dave Rubin. Grab the podcast. You missed it. It talks about the fact that they're over it. The insanity here. I mean, was McConaughey's wife's like, I want to live where people have some values. I want to live where people are normal. They go to church on Sundays and they just have a normal life. And same thing with Wahlberg. There's like these people are leaving because they're just kind of like, this is not what I want. This insanity is something wholly different. But the Dumbledore thing, or whatever it is, the beast, is very interesting because I was reading about. So Johnny Depp has been replaced by Mads Mikkelsen, who is a great actor. And that's interesting. And he's replaced because of the whole Amber Heard thing. And on Friday, I watched some of the highlights. My wife's like, let's watch some of these highlights because I've been watching. It's crazy. They were awful to each other. But his family and her assistant and several other people were like, you don't even realize. In fact, Aquaman, she was going to get fired from Aquaman after shooting most of the movie because of the rumors they were hearing about how she treated Johnny Depp. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, this is not a good relationship. I think the best thing is that it's over. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program, check out the podcast. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
I got to be honest with you. There's shootings over the weekend and people. It's funny, like last week, how things went chaotic. New York, shooting on the subway, right? People freaked out. Sunday night before Sacramento, massive shooting. How quickly they die. I was like, oh, this isn't a pissed off angry white kid who can't get a date. This isn't, somebody who's been listening to Trump 24/7 and One American News and is a QAnon person. This guy, the guys in California and Sacramento, the prosecutor's like, don't let them out of jail early. These are bad dudes. They're going to do bad things. Don't do it. Don't do it. And they're like, oh, we know everything because we're nice. We're going to let them out of jail. And then they went and did something horrific. And, you saw what happened. But it quickly died on the newspaper world, right? The establishment media, the legacy media, whatever you want to call it. Just gone. Then you had gun violence in several other places, including South Carolina. And this one I found to be bizarre. I'll tell you why. Because the guy who is one of the suspects is out on bail. He will be monitored and under house arrest with his little ankle monitor, but he can go to work. Excuse me? 9 people were shot. 5 others suffered injuries while attempting to flee the mall. He was arrested. Jawayne Price, 22, charged with unlawful carrying of a pistol in connection with the shooting. Because that's what you totally do. You take a gun to the mall. Wouldn't you? Look, I've carried guns in the past. Probably will carry some in the future. This is just weird to think about. And people are asking the question, well, hold on a second. Why exactly is this guy allowed to go out? Because he is a suspect. Right now, they've only charged him with unlawfully carrying a firearm, but he is a suspect.
Depending on where you are in the country, there's different sort of mindsets about possession of firearms and use of firearms. It can be, generally speaking, in the South, much more casual.
Yeah. Now, here's one of the things they said. Price is one of 3 suspects in the aftermath of the shooting. The other 2 men were released after it was determined they weren't involved. So there was a bunch of people at a mall, 5 people shot, 9 people injured on top of that for a total of 14. So people were trying to flee. And the one person that was charged, he gets to go out of jail on a surety bond, which essentially is you're putting up money for like 10% of so it's 25 grand is what they charge him. Some sort of, collateral on this. And he gets to go to work. Oh, he's also been told he can't go to the mall. That is nuts. That is crazy. So that's where you're going with that one, huh? Okay. I don't, at this point in time, I don't even know what is going on with half of this insanity. I don't. You sit there and you're thinking, so wait, if this was a white guy, that'd be everywhere. It'd be nonstop. It's all we'd be hearing about. How fast the black nationalist, right, Frank James, how fast his story has disappeared from anybody's conscious at this point, unless you were involved in it. Sacramento was the same way. And it shows you just how much it's about them. And that brings me to this, and I find this interesting. Of course, Elon Musk is trying to ruin the world, according to everybody who is insane, and buy this thing called Twitter. Twitter is really interesting. Not a lot of people are on it comparatively to things like Instagram and Facebook. But the influence it has is far superior than all of those. So it's punching well above its weight class in influence, even though the reality is most of you listening, you may have a Twitter, you may not, but you're very rarely are you super active in it. I mean, you do get some people who are crazy. They're tweeting, they have 4 followers, and they tweet 25 times a day and 100 times a day. I mean, I've got a couple that tweet at me nonstop, and it's just, I sit there and I'm like, wow, I guess you got nothing else going on. But it is very interesting. And what Mika Brzezinski said, and he's, of course, Scarborough, Mika Brzezinski Scarborough, of course, married Joe in the Morning Joe, is talking about Elon because she is upset because apparently he's going to control what you think.
The dangerous, edges here are that he's trying to undermine the media, trying to make up his own facts. And it could be that while unemployment and the economy worsens, he could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think. And that is our job.
Yeah. That is your job? Yes, we're the ones. We are the good people. We get to control what people think. We don't want somebody else to have any opportunity to give people a platform to have conversations and to really debate each other. And I'm fascinated by the whole thing. Look, do I think he's going to get it? I don't know. I'm not even sure he wants it. I think he likes the I think there's something to what Mark Cuban said where he thinks he's trolling. But I think he'd take it. But I don't think he's going to go up to like $10 billion for this because it's just that, he's not an idiot. Unless he's just like, I need to write some money off. But to get that money, this is the other side of it. To get that money, he's going to have to sell a bunch of his stock in Tesla. So in selling that stock, that's going to upset the shareholders over there. And just like the shareholders here at Twitter have a responsibility, if somebody's offering you more than the company's worth by a decent amount, you have to listen to that. You do. In a real way. Not come up with, oh my God, I got to get rid of this guy. He's horrible. He's going to come out and allow people to have free thought. What are we thinking? Speaking of that, here's some Elon from a TED Talk.
I think if in doubt, let the speech, let it exist. It would have, if it's a gray area, I would say let the tweet exist. But obviously, in a case where there's perhaps a lot of controversy, that you would not want to necessarily promote that tweet. Yeah, I mean, if in doubt,
Well, what does that mean? And this is the problem with this. And he addresses here. If you're looking for absolute perfection, you're not going to get it. Some things are going to get through. Some things are going to offend. Some things are, and if, by the way, we should be protecting offensive speech. We should be. And I don't mean offensive speech as in going out and screaming, yelling, things that are vile and hateful. We get that. That's still speech is protected. I'm just talking about in today's world, any speech that somebody deems hateful gets called hateful. And just because, as Ricky Gervais, just because your feelings are hurt doesn't make you right.
And a good sign as to whether there's free speech is someone you don't like allowed to say something you don't like. And if that is the case, then we have free speech. And it's damn annoying when someone you don't like says something you don't like. That is a sign of a healthy, functioning, free speech situation.
100%. 100%. Free speech. And that whole thought of what we have and those rights, those founding fathers, those evil founding fathers put in place is amazing. And it's about protecting the speech that you don't like. Because eventually somebody's not going to like your speech. But everybody thinks their speech is right and moral and just and should be heard. And should be heard. We got a lot more about this, more of the insanity in which these people are freaking out about the whole thought of somebody coming in and just taking over Twitter and allowing people to go, hey, I think the Wuhan lab may have played a part in COVID. You're like, oh, God, no. And, of course, so much of it about Trump, right? So much of it's about Trump. Like, so much is like, do you think he's going to allow Trump to come back on? Oh, my God, what will that do for America? The more free speech we have, the more democracy is destroyed. What? What? What are you talking about? That's, okay, we had so much to get to today. We're going to talk to Mike Lyons, our military analyst, bottom of the hour. What's going on in not just Mariupol, but Lviv today got bombed. They're ratcheting it up, the attacks, and the ugly part of what we're going to see here, I think, is going to be far worse than anything we've already seen. And the thoughts of tactical nukes and things of that nature that are being floated out there and even threatened, that too is scary, but I think also becoming more and more of a real scenario in what is going on in Ukraine. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Healthy Cell. I'm taking it for a while now, and it is amazing. Had the best weekend of sleep I have had in forever and a day, and thank you, Healthy Cell. So many of you guys take vitamins out there, right? Like a lot of us do. You take vitamins. You spend all this money on it, and your body doesn't absorb it. Pills are too big. They taste gross. None of it works the way that you like. And lo and behold, what do you have? You have a waste of money, and you don't get what you need. On the other side, nutritionists, doctors have been putting this thing together for a long time. Healthy Cell comes along, and they said, look, this is an ingestible gel. It's simple and easy. Small little packet. You can put it in water, make a smoothie out of it, suck it down. That's what I do, and away you go. Your body absorbs it fast, 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 and boy, does it help. For me, I'm taking REM Sleep, and I'm taking, in the afternoons, every single day, Focus and Recall. Helps with so many things. And it does. And I can get distracted. I do a lot of different things, but I'll tell you what. This has ginseng extracts. It has omega-369. It got MCT oil, amino acids, natural caffeine, all of these incredible things. What's it do? Helps my brain. Fast, no jitters, long-term brain health as well with the antioxidants. It's just awesome. And then the REM Sleep, like I said this weekend, fantastic. Try it right now. Your journey to better health begins right now with Healthy Cell. When you do this, go to healthycell.com/Chad. That's healthycell.com/Chad. You're going to use promo code Chad. You're going to get 20% off your first order. That's healthycell.com/Chad. Promo code Chad for 20% off. Healthycell.com. Promo code is Chad. Save 20% off your first order. Chad Benson Show.
Me Too. Hashtag immigration reforms. Hashtag help, I'm trapped in a hashtag factory and I can't get out. The Chad Benson Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out
What's trending? What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending?
Let's find out. It's trending on the old webs of the enter. Start over in Google. So Google, Elon Musk. Always trending because he's made people mad. Because he might buy their toy. Oh. DJ Slay, K-Slay, hip-hop icon and DJ passed away, age 55. Sweden's been hit with riots by anti-Islam right-wing groups. Number one trending thing last 24 hours, lots of NBA and Easter stuff. Celtics, Bulls, Heat, Suns. Oh, yeah. Boston Marathon's trending. I know they're still doing that. Are you allowed to do that? Are you allowed to run? Do you have to wear a mask when you run? That feels like something somebody would come up with. Danny Elfman, the famed Danny Elfman, who was the lead singer for Oingo Boingo, is married to Fonda, and not Jane, but the younger one, who's kind of disappeared, and that we were talking about a couple months ago, where there's pictures surfaced of her, and people are like, that cannot be her. But he was at Coachella, played a lot of Oingo Boingo hits, which he doesn't do, but also he's really big at doing things like all the music for The Simpsons and pretty much anything Tim Burton does. And he's the voice of Jack Skellington when he sings. And yeah, so that was interesting at Coachella because the first weekend was put to bed. We got some funny stuff about that, including Anthony saw it and he says, did you guys hear about Damon Albarn? And I'm like, no. So he's the lead singer of Blur and the Gorillaz. Well, apparently, he came out on stage with Billie Eilish, and people thought, is that her dad? Some people thought it was Elton John. It's like, he's not that old. My goodness. Head over to Twitter. Lots of stuff over there. My favorite one is testicle tanning. We'll probably do that one a little bit later. Don't ask, but apparently that's the new thing to do. What? Multiple Boston Red Sox players unable to play a series in Toronto against the Blue Jays due to unvaccinated status. Yeah, that's still going on. That old COVID. Oh, better not go there. You guys are gonna bring COVID here. It's gonna be mean. More insanity also trending on Twitter of what's going on in Ukraine. Mike Lyons, our military analyst, is going to join us to talk about where this is headed. You're hearing more and more about the possibility of tactical nukes. They were flying some of their planes that deliver these things rather low. They are being more active in the air because they're closer to the Russian side of the border than they were when they were trying to get into Kyiv, which they were further away. So we'll find out about what's going on there. And Ilhan Omar saw videos of Christians singing on an airplane. Then she asked the question, what would happen if Muslims did the same? Is that so? What would happen? I don't know. Do you think it would be the same if a bunch of Christians crashed an airplane into a giant building, killing almost 3,000 people? I think we'd look at people different. Don't you? Sounds horrible, but that's the reality of it. It is. It is. What's their song they're singing? Is it good? Because if it's a sucky song, you know what? I don't care what religion you are. If it's a song that sucks, I got no time for that. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The small group of Ukrainian fighters hold out in Mariupol, dug in at the Azovstal steel plant, a sprawling complex with underground tunnels. Russia delivering its ultimatum, surrender or be, quote, eliminated. But the Ukrainians rejecting the Russian demands, defiant. Civilian casualties in the city, massive. Ukrainian officials put the number in the thousands, but the true toll is unknown.
Yeah, it's getting uglier and uglier. And our guy that joins us now, Mike Lyons, military analyst, retired major in the Army, who has been predicting this part of it is going to be nasty. There was a lull. The lull seems to be going away rather fast. And Mike, the shelling, the bombing, they hit Lviv today. It feels like the ramp up to bigger weapons is happening fast.
Yeah, Chad, I think so. You're looking at an artillery war now. This is the phase where Russia will just kind of pour it on with the artillery weapons that they have. Back in the 80s, the Russians outgunned us about 5-1. They probably have that same numerical superiority against the Ukraine military right now as well. And they've been kind of saving it, and they can resupply quickly from their border and through the Donbass region there. Deep interdiction strikes going into places like Lviv, and now that's where those supply lines are at. So this is going to be a tough fight, and it is, early 20th century, late 19th century. This is old school artillery warfare that's going to take place now, where cities are going to be rubbled, and there's going to be a tremendous amount of destruction. It could happen, go on for weeks, months, in fact.
You talk about the destruction, and like Mariupol is unrecognizable. They are going to hammer. What we saw at the beginning of this was guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla warfare, completely different. They were able to be sneaky. They were able to get in and around places and do things that the Russians couldn't combat against. This is different, though. Like you said, this is wide open fields and things of that nature, tank battles. That element of surprise is going to disappear, which is going to make it much easier for the Russians, who have superiority when it comes to manpower as well as the fighting power that they have.
Yeah, and what's got to happen for Ukraine to win is two things. The first thing is they've got to destroy Russian artillery, and that's going to be a really challenging task. So in this last shipment of equipment that came in, kind of a laundry list of items, you kind of look at it, you kind of your eyes glaze over, but there was two things that I saw in there that were pretty important. One were those Q-36 radars. Those are specifically designed for counter batteries. So every artillery round has a return address to it. That's the kind of radar that's designed to figure out the return address from where that artillery is coming from. And then the second piece are those drones and switchblades that'll come in, because those will be allowed to hover over and to destroy. And once they kind of zero in on where those targets are, they can kind of go get them. Normally, you fire artillery at other artillery in order to destroy it. It's kind of area fire weapon. It's how it works. I'm a former artillery officer. This is what I did for 10 years of my life. Every day, got up every day and did this kind of stuff. So anyway, so that's the first thing. They're going to have to destroy that. The second thing is they're going to have to channel them into kill zones and try to shape the battlefield in a way that is to their advantage. And they know the terrain better, so they'll have an opportunity to do that. And that's where they'll use the javelins and things like that. But right now, the artillery war is going to be at it, and I think they're going to have to deploy those Q-36s, get that radar out there, get those drones and switchblades out there, and start firing up the Russian artillery.
Talking to Mike Lyons, military analyst, we talk about what's going on in Ukraine. We go from there to people. They flew some of their planes that can deliver some of the nukes overhead. There's pictures of it. There's film of it. This is, Putin's doing whatever the hell Putin wants to do at this point in time. I don't think anybody can understand what he's doing, the rhyme or reason, in some cases. It feels like, could this be the time he decides, I've had enough of this. Let's just do a low-grade tactical nuke. Let's just wipe everything out and go from there.
Well, that would have to be over civilian population if he does it the worst possible thing. Really, tactical nukes are delivered with artillery. They're not necessarily delivered by planes for a reason, because of the capability to kind of get away from them. It's not a cruise missile. That's a little higher than a tactical nuke. So it's delivered by artillery. It's within that range there. They could deliver. They have what's called the father of all bombs. We have the mother of all bombs. All that means is they've got a lot more explosive stuff inside of a cruise missile that they could use. It's really an overpressurized type system where it takes out all the oxygen from a certain area, and then that causes implosion as opposed to explosion. But again, hard to predict. He's got everything available to him. This is where they've kind of held back on some ways. And the question is whether they're going to use this capability or not. I still don't think tactical nukes changes anything. It doesn't change NATO's response. I'm listening to senators over the weekend on Face the Nation. This one guy from Delaware in particular, U.S. troops getting involved. What are you talking about? What is our response? If they fire a tactical nuke at us, please tell me how we're going to respond in kind. We're surely not going to fire another nuke back at them. And then tell me what the target is. We're going to now, a NATO country is going to attack Russian troop formations. Again, all non-starters, a lot of talk and a lot of rhetoric. Ukraine's just got to hunker down and do the best they can to try to prevent these things from happening.
Speaking of NATO, it looks more and more likely that Finland and or Sweden are going to join NATO, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think we got too many countries in there that we're not quite sure about. You've pointed that out throughout the Balkans, some of these former Soviet states. But Finland and Sweden, they come out and they said, yeah, we're tossing around the idea. And it automatically is like, well, we'll blow you up. And they're like, that doesn't push them further away from NATO. That makes them go, we need NATO.
Yeah, I was mostly against this. And I think, we've talked about that in the past and what we did the past 20 years, adding some of these countries that frankly haven't contributed. They haven't spent enough on their defense budgets. The other issue is interoperability. That's the other problem we've got with equipment that we're sending to Ukraine. They're fundamentally a former Soviet Union, Russia funded military with different millimeters of weapon systems that, we have 155 artillery rounds. They need 152 artillery rounds. They're just different specifications. Well, now you turn around and you see what happens here, and both Sweden and Finland are additive. Those boys can play, they can shoot, they can fight. The Finns have already beat the Russians once in a war, in the beginning of World War II. I mean, so I'm all for this, and they'll spend the money. They'll be all in, and they'll actually be a much better partner, I think, than some of the partners that we've had in NATO the past 20 years.
Talking to Mike Lyons, military analyst, retired major in the Army, as we talk about the craziness and the sadness going on in Ukraine, because it is sadness, watching people discover their children dead. Of course, everybody saw the video of the lady who finds her child in a well over the weekend. It is horrific. And it is going to get much, much, much worse. That's the feeling I have. And I also think we're going to find out a lot more as they move into some of these places where the Russians have pulled back and find horrific atrocities taking place. But the world has kind of stayed steady, supplying them. I keep waiting for one of those NATO countries that's worried about something to get itchy. And that's my fear outside of them crossing the line, is who's going to get itchy and try to do something and drag everybody into it.
Well, I hope we have the strategic patience not to. It is a hard reality, but this, like we've talked about, is a regional conflict. And if we drag the rest of NATO into it, then it becomes a world level conflict. Then Russia mobilizes a lot more. They still have a lot of people. They still have a lot of capability, behind the Ural Mountains and the like. I'd hate to see the United States homeland attacked. That's a possibility. I said that over the weekend on a talk show I did. It said Russia has the capability to fire a missile from the Atlantic Ocean and hit any city in the Northeast. So in the Eastern coast. So we've got to really be very cautious of this and not get dragged into this. In a perfect world, we give all this equipment to the Ukrainians and they absolutely destroy the Russian military in place. And that's what's happening. The amount of casualties I'm now reading are unsustainable from Russia. They've taken more casualties, 20,000 or so men in the past 2 months that have taken all of almost the time in Afghanistan. I mean, they're almost to the point where it's not going to be sustainable without a major call-up conscription within Russia. And I think that potentially changes the calculus for how Vladimir Putin is going to be able to control his people there.
Why does that change it? Because so many of them are hearing how great this is going. But if you're starting to call up people, that makes it seem like, well, hold on a second, maybe this isn't all it's cracked up to be.
That plus the sinking of the Moscow, the embarrassment that goes with that. He faces, he's got to keep that somewhat under wraps, in that regard. It's a slippery slope when the propaganda faces inside of Russia. He still controls that. Was watching 60 Minutes last night, watching some guy claim that we're going to shut Russia off from the internet. We don't really have that. We've got great capacity. We don't have that kind of capacity because Russia still has a friend in China, still has a friend in India. They still have capability within the rest of the world. So the faster this ends, from my perspective, is the European countries have got to really mobilize and get off of Russian gas, get off of Russian fuel, and really isolate Russia now for a very long time. We're back to the 80s. We're back to the Cold War. Isolation has got to be the key. We have to stop funding the war machine because that's really what's happening right now.
Talking to Mike Lyons, who's our military analyst, been on this thing throughout, and Germany is the big thorn in everybody's side, right? Germany, Italy, a little bit as well. Everybody's, you've given away everything in hopes and prayers that you guys now have seen the light where you shouldn't attack people and do things, Germany. But Russia's still Russia. They've always been Russia, and now you're paying the price for it. And I would have thought as we head into April, into May, that they would be talking more and more about getting off the oil and gas because, well, it's not so cold that we can probably figure out a way to get them ready for next winter, but it doesn't seem to be that way.
Right. I think that still there's opposition within Germany. The Germans have made this mistake once already 100 years ago during the First World War, Second World War. They did the same thing with the Russians. They trusted the Russians. And, they recognize, though, that there's still this big push about getting off of, fossil fuels are still fossil fuels, whether we get them from Germany or we get them from the United States or somebody else. What Germany did was take down all their nuclear power plants, which, again, is the cleanest, most efficient way to do this. And they were scared by what happened in Japan and what's happened in the past, what happened in Chernobyl, for example. But, then those things just don't go back up overnight. The French have figured it out, and they're starting to do that. They're starting to go back on nuclear energy as well. But Germans, we let them get away with this for the last 20 years. Donald Trump tried to call them out on it. Donald Trump got mocked for it. But this is a result of Angela Merkel and a lot of left-wing policies within Germany that just didn't set them up to be a real country. I mean, they're going to be beholden strategically to outsource their energy to one of their enemies. Just doesn't make any sense, but that's what they did.
This week, a turning point, I think, in the start of this march of chaos in Ukraine. What do you think we should be looking forward this week as far as what the Russians are going to do and how the Ukrainians are going to fight back?
So you start early in the week, and we're seeing these deep interdicting strikes into Lviv and into those areas on the other side of Kyiv, on the other side of the Dnipro River. I think the Russians are going to go after our supply lines. They're going to go after some of the material that's coming in because we're bragging about it being sent there. We're sending 100 APCs, for example, armored personnel carriers. That's part of that package. Well, you can't fly them in, and you can't necessarily truck them, and you're going to drive them in, and they're going to be a big target. They're going to be a long convoy potentially. There's going to be a lot of things that the Russian has capability to see things as well. So I think you're going to see a lot more of those targets. Now, if one of their cruise missiles or so misses a spot and potentially crosses a border, then we have another potential border incident. But again, I think you're going to see more of that continued pounding along the Donbass. They've taken Mariupol. I think we've all agreed on that. They've leveled it to the ground. It's another Grozny. They're going to continue to try to take small pieces of maneuver within the Donbass region with high artillery. But I think you're going to see strategic interdicting fires that are going to go well deep into Ukraine as they try to upset our supply lines.
Mike Lyons, always great to have him, man. He's been on us. He's been on this entire thing with us since the beginning, since before it happened. Appreciate you coming on, Mike. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Love having him on. He gives it, and he's a straight shooter. I mean, he's been right way too much scary. I mean, you think, Mike, you got to get now. He's right on, and this is what we're going to see in the coming days, and I believe him. And it's going to get uglier before it gets better. And he's right, though. The Russians can't take as many as they're taking now, and it's one of the things that he's always said. They may be able to win somewhat of a war, but the occupation could never happen. You don't have that kind of manpower. You don't. Can you imagine that, being a soldier walking around Kyiv or Lviv or what's left of Mariupol in 6 months, and your country has been somewhat just blown into the dark ages, but you've got all this weaponry around? My God, that would be, you're done. I mean, your lifespan is virtually the moment you go out on your first shift. So I don't know what the end game is going to be. Even if they take the Donbass region and have something, you're still going to have people that are going to be Ukrainian sympathizers, even some Russians who will not allow that to be a quiet place. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson shows your Twitter. MyPillow. Right now, it's got a great deal. Normally $109.99. Now you can get a set, the best towels around, for $39.99. You step out of the shower, your jacuzzi, your swim, whatever you're doing, boom, there is your My Pillow towels. Incredible. No lotiony feel, not scratchy, super absorbent. Boom, away it goes. Cotton, made right here in the USA, which is fantastic. It's grown right here. So this is what you get. 6 towels. You're going to get 2 mat towels, 2 hand towels, 2 washcloths, tons of colors and sizes, machine washable, 6-day money-back guarantee. And for a limited time, you're going to get a 6-piece towel set. Regularly $109.99, yours for right now for $39.99 with promo code Benson. MyPillow.com/Benson or call 800-983-4975, 800-983-4975. Deep discounts on all products, but right now take advantage of the MyPillow towel set for only $39.99. MyPillow.com/Benson. Use that promo code Benson. MyPillow.com/Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Wanna be boys? Give me a bowl of chili with plenty of peppers. One Mexican heartburn. Why don't you mugs grow up?
The Chad Benson Show, where independent a la carte thinkers have a seat at the table and a voice in the dialogue.
I'll have what she's having.
This is Chad Benson.
Procrastinators are helping to fuel what the IRS is calling its most challenging year ever. The agency started accepting and processing 2021 tax returns 17 days earlier than last tax season, but about 2% fewer people had filed by April 1st. The staffing at the IRS stands about where it did in 1970, but don't assume that you won't be contacted for filing a problem return or not filing at all.
Yeah, you just might not get that phone call for several years. Tax day. So tax day was kicked. Friday was, for a lot of people, Good Friday. Places were closed. Many places were closed. So, tax day rolls along. And now they moved it to here. If you haven't filed, just file. You're going to be late. Tell them that. They give you that grace period. Kick it out a while. Some of you listening, like me, you file at different times of year because you're a small business. You do quarterly, things like that. So the 15th doesn't mean anything to you. But for a lot of people out there, plus here's the other side of it. Why this also matters is people are hoping to get their tax returns back faster. And that's just not happening. Just don't have enough staff. How do we not have enough staff? I mean, federal government loves to hire. Not everybody wants to work for the IRS. That's why. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Miss any of the show, like the great interview there with our military analyst, Mike Lyons. Make sure you grab the podcast where available, which is everywhere on the interwebs. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
I do believe they will call this a regular old asswoman in November. I think that's what's coming for the Democrats. I think they understand that. There is it's going to be a bloodbath at this point. Barring some sort of miracle, barring some sort of flip around and turn around, barring something that is just like, oh my God, and not to put it past the Republicans to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, which we know they can, it is going to get ugly, ugly, ugly this year for Democrats. If you have a D by your name, you're in trouble. If you're in any kind of area. Now, we're not talking about California, although I will say this. A couple great articles this weekend talking about, is this a turning point in places like California where people are moving out, people are unhappy, they've had enough of what's going on, and they've seen urban decay. They have seen lawlessness in the last several years grow. They've seen wokeness, homelessness destroyed their once amazing and beautiful state. I was born and raised in California. Now, in between, I've lived in Europe for on and off for a decade. I lived in Texas. I'm out here in Phoenix and Arizona. But when you look at that is not the state that I remember. And it's not just that state. It's not just California. New York saw the same thing. High crime rate. You're seeing cities that are, just absolutely decimated by homelessness. And they've tried to build this utopia, and instead they've built this weird world of wackiness where doing drugs in the open is completely fine, but you better wear your mask inside a car by yourself or else you're going to be in serious trouble. So this year is going to be a tough year for Democrats. Then you've got the high price of gas, which is not going anywhere anytime soon. And no matter how much people are trying to figure out how to save and what to do, it just doesn't seem to be, falling at the rate that some people would hope it would fall, which plays into everything. Everything that you and I do, there's usually some sort of plastic or petroleum product that's inside of that. I'm drinking my iced tea right now. My cup is plastic. Petroleum products, right? This is not some magical, like I wished it up and boom, it popped out. But the cost of these things are going up tremendously. And when you look around and you see the struggles that people are having, it's no doubt that people are looking for the scapegoat. And quite frankly, sometimes we look for a scapegoat, knowing full well in our minds, probably not all their fault, but they're the ones who will pay the price because somebody has to. This isn't one of those times. People aren't buying Putin's price hike. People aren't buying that this only happened over the last 6 or 8 weeks. They're looking out there and saying, you have failed the American people. You have. You have failed the American people, and because of that, you're going to have to pay. And I believe that every time you drive by a gas station, that right there is a ad politically for a Republican.
About a quarter of Americans are traveling this weekend. This is according to TripAdvisor. For drivers, we know that prices are high at the pump, but AAA states that historically higher gas prices don't deter people from driving. They did do a survey, though, and it seems like $5 per gallon, that's a key psychological level for people when they're considering changing future plans. 75% of respondents said that level would basically change what they're doing.
Yeah. There's a psychological side of stuff. I mean, when it comes to the cost of oil and gas, it's relatively, gas here is relatively cheap compared to a lot of places in the world. But as I always like to remind everybody, we drive in a much different way than a lot of places. Like, I had a car when I lived in Europe. I didn't drive a ton. I didn't. I mean, I might fill that thing up once every couple weeks. Wasn't driving every single day. Wasn't going places. It was simple for me. I mean, I lived up the street. I'd hop on the tube. Getting parking was a big deterrent, but you weren't driving as much as you do now. Here, most people I know live 30, 40, 50 minutes away from work. Producer Phil, how far do you live from work?
38 miles.
38 miles. That might have been a half a week for me when I lived in Europe. 38 miles. Didn't have a lot of places to go. And I wasn't driving, even to the stadium. I had, it was a couple miles away when I was playing soccer. I jogged there. And when I worked in radio, I would drive to the station and I would take a train into the station and I'd jump on an underground and be right there. It took a long time and it sucked, but there was never any parking anywhere there. So it was just as bad. we drive and live different. And people are understanding that, look, this is a nightmare. And this administration has failed. And they have failed over and over again. And they continue to fail. They continue to flounder. And most people are saying the same thing. No, we're not buying Putin's price hike. We're not buying any of that. In fact, we're looking at you and saying, your policies.
President Biden is trying to label this Putin's price hike. But most Americans, according to an NBC News poll, are not buying that. Only 6% blame Putin. Most believe President Biden's policies are very much to blame.
Yeah, and he took some action over the weekend as far as leases go for oil and gas, which is what he's trying to, because how can you not look around and say there's some serious questions with the way that you've come in here? And it's not just you, by the way. Your former boss, Biden's former boss, Obama, has said over and over again he wanted to make sure that the not just the oil and gas industry, but the coal industry was going to go out of business. They were going to make everything so expensive as to we only have a choice but to go with, unicorn farts and wind energy. And that hasn't happened. It's not happening. Not at the speed that they would like it to. So they had to turn and do something that they didn't want to do because people are asking the question, why are we energy independent but not oil independent?
The move upsetting environmental activists in the president's Democratic base. The decision a clear departure from this 2020 campaign promise.
And by the way, no more drilling on federal lands, period. Period.
But the White House saying their hands were tied. The president did sign an order pausing the sale of new leases when he came into office. But a federal judge in Louisiana said they had to go forward. The decision this week coming while gas prices are spiking. The White House facing political pressure to look for ways to supercharge domestic production.
Yeah, and that's not going to be overnight. And for those of you not keeping score, Brent crude is over $113 a barrel. So that little tick down that we have seen, that might not be as great as we thought it was going to be. And now you're talking about leasing again on land where people are going to have a chance to go out if they want to. And if they already have gone and searched, because many of these leases that are occupied, they've already, like, you lease the land, you go out, you do all of your, geological research, and you go, it's no oil here. Well, the oil that is here, it's just not enough. It's not fiscally responsible to get this oil out. So we're not going to. But we still have the lease on it. So the lease will expire. But there are new leases out there. And then you got to take in the other side of stuff, and that's the other side of it, which people don't talk about, that should be raised when it comes to this. If we were to go and try to drill here, we're going to get hit with so many ecological and green studies that it's going to take God knows how long and how many court battles just to get to the point where we can start taking oil out of here. And then along the way, we're going to continue to get hit with environmental impact study after impact study. And so for every dollar we're making, 50 cents or $1 is going back into fight just to get it out of the ground. Rather than just reason with people and say, look, here's the deal. We don't like fossil fuels, but it's what we got. Every one of you out there who's bitching, whining, and moaning about fossil fuels. You hate fossil fuels. They're evil. They're bad. You're living off fossil fuels right now. 90% of the stuff that you're doing, from the clothes that you wear to the phone that you use to all of these things, are powered in some way, shape, or form by fossil fuels. So we can do two things here. We can suck and have our economy slide backwards and eventually pay a heavy ultimate price down the road that you couldn't understand. Or we could be smart about it and say, look, we're going to drill responsibly. We're going to drill responsibly. We're going to hold people accountable if they cut, if they're cutting corners and doing things. Because if we really care about the planet and we're the ones who are saying we care about it, then we should extract that oil in a responsible manner. Therefore, being able to control what goes on price-wise as much as we can. And at the same time, try to control as much as we can when it comes to the actual drilling and extracting the oil and getting it from point A to point B using as little fossil fuels to try to, reduce our carbon footprint. Or we can continue to give our money to people who hate us and who don't care about the land, don't care about the people, don't care about the environment. Choice is yours. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. A lot of stuff to get to. Immigration talk. Elon Musk is making people scared, which makes me laugh. Because he might give people free speech. We got more on what's going on in Mariupol and Kyiv and elsewhere throughout the Ukraine. And a bunch of little kids joined their first year of kindergarten. Got their, normally you get like Nilla wafers, right? And a little thing of apple juice. Their apple juice was different. We'll talk about that as well. Eden Pure, best thing I've done for my house and my new office that, quite frankly, was a little smelly. People moved out, they smoked a bit. They left some food in there. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. So lo and behold, along comes Eden Pure with their Thunderstorm 2, the best around air purifier. Incredible. Plug it right in the wall, super quiet. Within moments, the smells are gone. Gone, I say. Right now, they want you to grab some of these. So if you have issues, maybe litter boxes, smoking, or a former smoker in the house, maybe you do smoke, you're worried about stuff and the smells, this is where this comes along. You never have to worry about it taking up floor space, directly into the wall, no filters to buy over and over, and you're going to save big on the OxyLeaf 2 Thunderstorm. You get 3 units, and you're going to save $200 right there by using code CHAD3. So I want you to do. EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. You go there, put in discount code CHAD3. You're going to save $200. You get 3 of these, full coverage. Your kitchen, your office, your bedroom, wherever you head. Within moments, you will smell the difference, as I like to say. EdenPureDeals.com. Use discount code CHAD3. Shipping is free. EdenPureDeals.com. Chad Benson Show.
Deep states? No. Deep doo-doo? Yeah. The Chad Benson Show.
That is a group of people on an airplane who are Christians, and they are singing songs for Jesus as they're flying at 30,000 feet. Ilhan Omar responds essentially saying, I think my family and I should have a prayer session next time on a plane. How do you think that will end? I don't know. How will it end? It's a fair question. How do you think it'll end? Some people are upset about this. I find it to be just like, let it go. So what? They were on there. First of all, I went to church yesterday, right? Go to church. I have my faith. I'm always not a fan of the singing. I'll be honest. Some of it I like. Some of it I don't. I was out a couple weeks ago. My friend Josh, he's one of the pastors at our church. We're playing golf. So Josh, got to be honest with you, not always a fan of the singing. How is it we could take a song that has like 4 lines and turn it into like a 12-minute song? He starts laughing, kind of agreeing, But that became a story. It's like, how do you think this would happen? I don't know. Like, what song are you singing? What kind of prayer are you saying? It's I think it's fair. On an airplane, we remember what happened on 9/11. And I remember it was Thomas Friedman who had the book out at the time. I think The World is Flat or something like that. I forgot the name of his book. I think that was it. And he was in Pakistan talking to a bunch of kids, young adults, and they said, people like us, you look at us and you think we're all terrorists. And if we're on an airplane, he goes, hey, if a bunch of Swedes had flown a plane into buildings on 9/11, people with blonde hair and blue eyes, we'd look at completely different. That's a fair statement. I mean, if you're, let's not pretend for a second that some of that doesn't play into it. But she wants to make a point. She does. Let's make another point. I think, she's got is it her husband or her brother? or Husbro, not quite sure. He's a political guy. Like a lot of them, it's so crazy when you see how much money like her husband makes, and he has like a political, consulting firm, and she's paying tons of money to his political consulting firm. The money doesn't matter who you are, right? Whether it's Black Lives Matter or any organization, if you can get free money, government money, and a nonprofit, you can run hog wild handing stuff out. I'm more concerned about that. But that's all of what we see in modern day politics. I just keep going back to the movie Distinguished Gentleman, which was an Eddie Murphy movie that holds a much different view now as it did when I was younger. And I remember where he said when he was trying to get elected, he was telling it because he's a shyster, right? He's just a guy who plays these games. He's a con artist. And he says, we're going to go to the city paved with gold and free money. And he's like, one guy's like, Las Vegas? He goes, no, Washington, D.C. And that is so much of what it is. You slap my back, I'll slap yours. Here's some free cash. What do you think of that? Everybody's brother, niece, cousin, uncle has a business, and they're all getting money. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
That is me, you or you. Hope all is well on this gorgeous day, wherever you're listening to the fine program. Ukraine getting uglier, we know that, and it is not going to get better anytime soon. It's going to get much worse before it gets much worse, before there's even a thought of this thing getting better. And right now, the battle, and I think the battle's been won by the Russians. Zelensky's come out and said he's not going to give an inch when it comes to Mariupol or any part of the land, which I think is understandable. You do not want to reward Putin with anything. That being said, I just don't see them holding on to it that much longer.
In many ways, this whole war has been about Mariupol. It was actually bombarded quite heavily back in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea. And so Mariupol is once again a big center, and that's why we're seeing such massive humanitarian fallout there. That's why it's been almost completely razed.
Yeah, and that is true. Completely razed. Destruction. And you look at the before and afters, it's World War II. I mean, the stuff that you would see from Berlin and from parts of Japan and other parts of Eastern Europe, there is nothing left. You ever drive down a highway and you look over, and you're in the middle of godforsaken nowhere, and there's a house and there's, God knows when it was built, and it's got no roof and like an area for a door and then maybe one other wall. Like everything looks like that now. Everything does. That's what is going on. It's a destruction of Mariupol. And this is what they've wanted. They've wanted this. Gives them all the things that he has yearned for. If he couldn't take the whole country to denazify or whatever it is that they were doing and trying to do. And the battle is still raging. They are not giving up. They're going to fight to the last person.
The critical port city of Mariupol all but obliterated after weeks of Russian bombing and fierce fighting in the streets. Ukrainian troops are holding out, rejecting Russia's ultimatum to surrender. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky on CNN said he's happy with the latest $800 million in military aid from the U.S., but said his country needs more. Capturing Mariupol would provide Russia with a land bridge to occupied Crimea, allowing forces there to join an expected new offensive in the eastern Donbass region.
Yeah, and that's because the whole thing, and as we talked with our military analyst Mike Lyons, and he was on the show earlier. You can check out the podcast. Second hour is just fantastic, as usual. Is originally Crimea would have given them the thing that much of the Russian military and the Russians wanted, which is a land bridge to a warm water port. Their subs have trouble because they don't have any warm water ports. So it gave them that opportunity to have that. That is now turned into something completely different, because now you're going to have a way for them to deliver goods, to deliver all the things that they need to continue an offensive against the Ukrainian people. And so that battle is not going anywhere anytime soon.
If they take Mariupol, that whole area becomes essentially theirs, and they could call time on this particular invasion for now, but just sit on this territory, prepare yet again to invade Ukraine. And that is what Ukraine is worried about, having this permanent Russian presence right on their eastern flank for good.
Yeah. Just sitting there, waiting. Because who's going to believe him? What if they says, hey, you know what? You give us Mariupol and we're done. Do you really believe anything he says? Do you believe any of that? So now you've moved further in the country. Now you have a footing in the country. And now you have this land bridge to Crimea where you can start to once again ramp up things in the event that you may want to denazify or whatever baloney excuse you make up in the future to go after the Ukrainians. But now you're even closer, because one of the big things that's happened over the last several weeks is the supply lines are so far away from places like Kyiv. Getting there is one thing. Staying there and being able to be resupplied was something wholly different. And that's showing. It is going to get much worse before it gets much worse, before there's any thought of it potentially getting better. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from all of you. Anytime Elon Musk can make people freak out makes me laugh, especially when it comes to freedoms.
In responding to bipartisan demand, platforms may wind up enforcing on conservatives more than on liberals. Now, complaints about conservatives being censored online, they are core to the GOP's identity. See this Heritage headline as an example. It plays right into the cancel culture narrative. It powers Trumpian fundraising efforts, and now it is at the heart of Elon Musk's hostile takeover bid for Twitter. Right-wing media is celebrating Musk's bid, saying he's going to rescue free speech. He's going to reinstate it for millions of Americans and people around the world who've been muzzled by Twitter. And the villain in their story is, of course, the mainstream media.
Yeah, should be you. Brian Stelter's awful, and he's awfully hilarious. I wonder how much longer he has at CNN, because that was one of the things that they talked about. He was not liked pre-CNN Plus, which is hemorrhaging money, and he's not, for good reason. He's awful. He is. I mean, and he may be a very nice person. I'm not talking about him as a human being. I'm just saying he's just not good at this stuff. That's all I'm saying it that way. But here's the thing. Conservatives, I'll be honest with you guys, dominate a lot of social media. When you go and look at the growth and who's got massive size inside social media, there is a lot of that. Flamethrowers end up getting popped. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't. Free speech is an amazing thing. And the most important thing about free speech is being able to go, you know what? I got to respect that person said that. I don't have to respect their take on it. I don't have to respect them, but I must respect the fact that they have the right to say that in this country. Other countries, they don't. Here, we do. And the problem has come up with this blurry line in the world of social media, which is Facebook, and Facebook struggled with this at first and continues to do so, Twitter and many other places. You started to editorialize. You started to become an editor of what was right and what was wrong. You started to edit to go, I'm going to ban this, Hunter Biden's laptop. That's a story that's bigger than it probably could have been and should have been. But it was a story that most Americans agreed with. You know what? That should have been heard. It absolutely should have been heard. The Wuhan lab theory is an absolutely fair question to ask. It's like if a nuclear bomb somehow goes off in Ukraine, right? Let's just say something happens like that. Wouldn't it be fair to think, there's a war. This group gave up their nuclear weapons. This group has nuclear weapons. This group is helping the other people fight this war who doesn't have nuclear weapons because they promised that they would protect him. I think it's fair to say that seeing as this group here who doesn't have any nuclear weapons probably wouldn't kill all of their own people to make a point, considering they don't have nuclear weapons. So maybe the question should be, did these people do it? And that would be like, no, you couldn't do it. You can't do it. It's impossible. You can't ask that question. That's the thing that's scary. Elon gave a TED Talk, little Q&A kind of thing, sat down, talked about this.
I think if in doubt, let the speech, let it exist. It would have, if it's a gray area, I would say let the tweet exist. But obviously, in a case where there's perhaps a lot of controversy, that you would not want to necessarily promote that tweet.
Controversy is one thing, and who gets to decide what's controversy? Now, if you're, and I'm a free speech nut. I think free speech is the advocating of violence is something wholly different. You also have to think about kids getting on in certain areas, right? I mean, why do we have rated R if we're going to let kids see certain things? And that's already, but I'm a free speech nut, and there are horrible people out there. First of all, it's always good to know where crazy's at. I think that's always good. Secondly, I often wonder, what is the media in particular terrified of? What are you terrified of? Mika Brzezinski, she sums it up.
The dangerous, edges here are that he's trying to undermine the media, trying to make up his own facts. And it could be that while unemployment and the economy worsens, he could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think. And that is our job.
Yeah, that's our job. Well, no, it's not your job. Your job is to deliver the news. Now, you're a talking head show, so you can do whatever the hell you want to do. But the media believes a lot of that. What you see and what you hear should be our job, not theirs. And how we deliver it to you and the way that we want you to consume it is also up to us. We don't want to give you the who, what, when, how, and why. We want to give you what you should think about this subject, which is far more important than the subject itself. I love to listen to them freak out. Oh my God, this is the end of democracy. This can't get any worse. I could not tell if this was real or not. My assumption is it was real, but this is a tweet that went out the other day from Mark Anderson. He's got the blue check mark, and he retweeted something that to me was just you talking essentially about the Weimar. Right? Or as Jeff Jarvis tweeted this out. Today on Twitter, feels like the last evening in Berlin nightclub at a twilight of the Weimar Germany. Wow. Really? Is that what this is? Because you don't want people to go, hey, I think that we should be able to look into Hunter Biden. Hey, I think that there's some questions about the Wuhan lab. Hey, you know what? Maybe these vaccines were rushed a little bit and they're not as perfect as you thought they were going to be. Hey, there's disinformation. You know what? Disinformation is a you issue. If you're serious about finding out the truth about things, then you'll research it. If you're only going to go on a meme, it goes back to being a you problem. If you take your healthcare advice on a meme, maybe you should go, hey, I should probably look into this. I don't know if this meme's telling me the truth. This may be not meme believable. Oh, yeah. I say it every day. I continue to say it. Question your beliefs in a sense where you challenge them. Challenge them. I believe this. I think this to be true. I'm hearing stories about this that I don't know if they're true or not. I need to look into that. People stop there. I believe this to be true. It ends there. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from you. Healthy Cell. Take my Healthy Cell every single day. So the afternoons, I'm here all day. Sometimes I need a little something, a little pick-me-up. That's where Healthy Cell comes in. Now, for all of you out there who've taken pills in the past and vitamins, they're expensive. Your body doesn't really, absorb them the way they should. That's where Healthy Cell comes in. Doctors, nutritionists put together the most amazing thing in the world, and that is ingestible gel. Gel? Oh, yeah. It's like a quick liquid. Suck it down. Comes in a packet, a little bit bigger than like a ketchup packet or something like that. And you just tear the top off, suck it down, maybe put it in water, however you want to consume it, and away it goes. Your body absorbs it all. At night, I take my REM. During the day, I take Focus and Recall. It's got tons of stuff. It's great for my brain, helps my cognitive fuel. It helps my brain blood flow. It is awesome. And I love it. I love it. Take it every single day. Same thing with my REM sleep and the best sleep I've got this weekend. There's plenty of different things they do out there, but if you're looking for something where your body can absorb all of the stuff that you're taking, be able to do it in a healthy, amazing way, and get everything out of it, this is what Healthy Cell is all about. Right now, I want you to save 20% on your first order by going to healthycell.com/Chad. That's healthycell.com/Chad. When you use that promo code, you're going to save 20% off your first order. That's healthycell.com/Chad. Promo code Chad for 20% off your first order. Chad Benson Show.
Running with scissors sounds great compared to this.
Say what? So when I was a kid, I used to love it. Get my Nilla wafer, right? Get a little Nilla wafer, right? Get my apple juice, a little Dixie cup, drink it up, take a nap. A little different at this school.
The 5-year-old sipped on a bottle of a Jose Cuervo tequila pre-mixed drink, 10% alcohol, before a teacher stopped it. Alexis Smith got a call from Grand River Academy in Livonia, Michigan, Thursday, telling her that her daughter drank some, but they didn't know how much.
I asked her, is my daughter okay? And she said, she's right here and she looks okay.
A letter from the school says they'll be disciplined, but no details. Smith, upset, keeping her daughter home Monday.
Oh, the kid's okay? Well, I wouldn't let them drive. They're not getting inside their big wheels, if that's what you're asking. Wouldn't want to pull them over. That's a lot of alcohol for a little one. Right, don't you think? Like a 5-year-old? My question is, who brought it?
With so many thoughts running through my mind, oh my God, what if it was open before the girl brought it to school? How much was it?
Yeah, how much was in there?
No kids should be drinking, and just the shot itself, it burned. How do you feel? Anything could have happened.
Anything. Luckily, the kids seem to be fine, and like I said, they'll be disciplined coming soon. I just don't think I love you guys. You guys know that. When we go outside, we'll all play tetherball together. That'll be good. We'll start a business. It's not very nice, Chad. Speaking of unfinished business, he's back kind of in a weird way, not giving up on his dream of playing in the NFL. Not Tim Tebow, Colin.
I know I have to find my way back in. Okay. So, yeah, if I have to come in as a backup, that's fine. But that's not where I'm staying.
Okay. It's not where he's staying. He's got other stuff going on.
You had those dreams from when you're a kid. I'm gonna be an NFL player and I'm gonna win a Super Bowl. Yeah. And for me, I have unfinished business on that front.
You were an NFL player. You did go to the Super Bowl, and then things went sideways. You opted out of your contract. You became a loud voice against police officers, and you turned race into a weapon, of which you made a lot of money off of. And then the other side of stuff, you when you had some opportunities to go try out for teams, you wanted to do it in certain ways that even people who supported you said enough. If you were serious, you'd have played in the USFL this weekend. Let people get a look. You can still take a hit. You didn't. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Solid Fun Monday. Have a great rest of your day. We will do it again tomorrow. Night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.